on it being 6:30 on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. I call the meeting to order of the Brockton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with Governor Healy's opening meeting provisions, updated in March of 2023, which extends certain COVID-19 provisions until March 31st, 2025. Real-time public participation and comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. If you wish to comment during a public input portion of the hearing, please use the raise your hand function to be able to be addressed at the appropriate time. For those joining by phone only, please press *9 to raise your hand. A copy of this recording will be on the city's webpage. Please note that this is a professional meeting. Should disrespectful or inappropriate statements be made during the meeting, the host reserves the right to mute the speaker. All votes taken during this meeting will be done by roll call vote to ensure count accuracy. Commissioners, if you could please introduce yourself with your first and last name, so that way we can establish quorum.
Ruby Clay.
Peggy Curtis.
Lily Green.
Sharitha Mapp.
And Joyce Warris. So we have established quorum. Do you know if Laura will be attending tonight, Kyle?
I've not heard either way, so
Okay,
I'm sure.
thank you. Okay. The first item on the agenda is the meeting minutes from February 21st, 2024. Does anyone have any questions? Did you have a chance to read them, the iterations and reiterations? Any questions, comments, changes?
None. It looks good to me.
Okay. I'd like to recognize Laura. So Laura is also here. Okay. So I'd like to entertain a motion, please, for acceptance of the meeting minutes from February 21st.
I'll make a motion to accept the February 21st, 2024 meeting minutes.
I second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green, aye.
Mapp, aye.
Laura?
Clara.
Okay, and Voris, aye. So that motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Conservation Commission filing information and regulations. Has everyone had a chance to read those?
Yes.
Kyle, thank
Yeah.
you so much for sending them out ahead of time with an explanation. Thank you. Do you want to, would you like to present anything, review anything?
I can just read off the major changes just for the record,
fine.
and so anyone that's listening is able to hear. So I made some minor formatting and just kind of word changes, but the big 5 changes that were added or modified on this document, we are no longer requiring applicants to submit a hard copy with their filing materials. We added new language to the notice of intent section dictating how subdivisions and lot divisions should be handled for notice of intent filings. We added new language to the commission policy section detailing the process and time frame for Conservation Commission officer elections. We added a section that detailed the instructions to request an extension for an order of conditions, and added a separate section that details the instructions to request an amended order of conditions. So those 2 were just lacking in the previous document.
Okay, thank you. I did want to just state that as I was reading through both the original and the other, the more updated one, there were a couple of things that were items that I hadn't realized were actually in writing as far as regulations or, you know, administrative things that we're supposed to be following. And one of those was not to close a hearing under the pending receipt of something, that you really should have all documents or revised plans in hand before closing the hearing. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand that?
No, that is correct. That was in the previous version as well, but we just didn't enforce that. So
Yeah, I just hadn't seen that before, just for awareness, so the people that may be listening and for the commissioners as well. What was the other one? The color designations for resource areas, was that always on there as well?
yeah, that was not added. That was on the previous version as well.
Okay, that's good. That would be nice to have. It is much easier to read those maps, I think.
Yeah.
And also the requirement there be a written narrative of projects. So when the NOI or, you know, what other ones would require,
No, like an RDA.
NRAD.
or-
yeah, or NRAD, yeah. That there would be a written narrative of the project attached to the actual application, which I don't think we always get and would be really helpful.
Right. Yeah. So we can start moving forward after we adopt this. We can kind of start enforcing those policies.
Okay, thank you. And also the only other question, is there a time limit for how long things can go as an NOI until it should be taken off the agenda and the new application later? Or how,
I mean, I don't believe so. I think there's no limit. The commission can close it if the applicant isn't making progress, but I mean, you can vote to close at any point, but all the kind of ongoing filings that we have are being actively worked through.
okay, fine. I just wasn't sure if there was a time limit or not. Okay, thank you. Okay, and I guess that would bring us to officer elections. Oh, and
Well,
there's
no,
nothing,
we'll
we have to
vote
accept those,
adopt
right? We have
these.
to,
Yeah.
yes, okay. Okay. Commissioners, any other questions besides mine?
None for me.
No comments, okay. Thank you for clarifying those. So I entertain a motion then to accept the Conservation Commission filing information and regulations document as presented by Agent Holden.
I'll make a motion to accept the revised Brockton Conservation Commission filing information and regulations as stated by Kyle.
Seconded.
Okay, that motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Chloe.
Secra. Curtis, I.
Green, I.
Knapp, I.
And Voris, aye. So that motion passes. Thank you. And officer elections.
Yeah. Do you mind, Joyce? Do you want me to take over?
I would love for you to take over. Thank you.
All right. So one of the things that we've added to the filing information and regulations is language on how and when we will be doing officer elections kind of moving forward. This is very ambiguous before. It wasn't recorded, it wasn't written down anywhere, and it was very much up to the commission to decide how they wanted to do elections based upon the city ordinance. So, but it wasn't really defined anywhere. So what we did is we defined that. Basically, officers will serve 1-year terms beginning at the March meeting. Well, the elections will be at the March meeting. The term will begin in April until the following March. So I guess now we currently have 2 positions. We have the chair and the vice chair. We could have other positions like secretary, treasurer, but most of those administrative duties that would be covered under those positions are covered by our wonderful admins at the planning department. So I don't know that the commission really needs to fill those positions, but you're welcome to do that if you would like. But at least tonight, I would like to have officer elections for chair and vice chair. So let's begin with the chair. Joyce has been serving as the Conservation Commission chair. Joyce, do you want to speak to your interest before we have nominations, or?
If anyone else would like to have that position, that's fine with me.
Right.
If there is no interest, I'd be willing to serve for 1 more year, but then that would have to be it.
All right, thank you, Joyce.
You're
So we
welcome.
will entertain nominations for chair of the Conservation Commission.
I
I
nominate Joyce.
Joyce Voris.
Yeah. Thank you. This is it. Start thinking about next year.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
That was Sharifa?
Yes, it was
Yes.
Sharifa.
Okay. All right, entertain a vote to confirm Joyce as the chair of the Conservation Commission.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Map I.
All right, well, that's 5.
Laura,
so-
are you voting?
Well, this is my last meeting, so I didn't think I had to, but it's fine. I mean, I can, if Joyce wants to do it, but I'm done after this meeting, so I've served my term and I'm leaving, so. I don't know if tonight you want me to vote or anything. I was gonna email Kyle to see, but.
Yeah, so Laura, I think that your term will end after this evening, so function as far as tonight goes, just as a normal acting member.
Okay, Beekler, aye, Joyce.
Thank you.
All right, so Joyce, you've been confirmed. So as Laura has said, tonight is her last meeting serving on the Conservation Commission. So we have a vacancy for the vice chair position. We will entertain nominations now for vice chair for a 1-year term beginning next month until next March.
I nominate Peggy Curtis as a vice chair.
I second it.
Before I accept, I need to know what a vice chair does or is expected to do.
For the most part, it would just be to facilitate meetings like Joyce does in the event that Joyce is unable to attend. That's the majority of the responsibilities. Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's mainly the role of the vice chair.
Are you planning on any trips, Joyce?
I think Laura was going to speak, right? Hold on, Peg, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's all I mean, I kind of was last year when I was elected. You know, it was kind of like a surprise to me too, and I was stretched very thin too. So I had talked to Kyle about if we had to work together, it would be Joyce and I trying to always do the meetings together. I mean, that's worked for me, and it was just pretty much, it wasn't too much extra, in my opinion, Peggy, but again, I'm sure each person handles it a little bit different. But yeah, for me, it was just that type of responsibility, knowing that Joyce and I would make sure we both try to be at the meetings to help each other out, kind of thing, but.
And really appreciated everything you've done, Laura. Really. Lucky to have known you and have you.
I still live in Brockton, you'll see me.
Yeah. Have to run your campaign.
Exactly. But yeah, no, so Peggy, that's kind of my take on it, but I'm sure other vice chairs get way more involved. I mean, that was just mine, and Kyle can speak to maybe if there was other areas that I didn't necessarily cover that other vice chairs do, I don't know.
Peggy, as far as trips are concerned, the only concern that I have is actually next month. My daughter is actually due to deliver her first child on April 15th, and the meeting's April 17th, and she's in Chicago. So our plan is to drive out to Chicago the week before because she has no car. So yeah, and she has a dog. So if she happens to deliver in the middle of the night, we'd be able to help her out. So that's the only thing. I mean, what I've done is carry my computer with me and pretty much had meetings wherever we happen to be. But if the date is kind of weird because it's pretty close to the 17th. So I have no idea if we're in the middle of baby rocking, I probably wouldn't end up participating. And unfortunately, if you'd prefer that I just say, you know what, next meeting is yours, that's fine. I don't mind that at all.
No, so.
So yeah, Peggy, if you're not interested, you don't have to like accept the nomination. So
Yeah, I'm not going to accept it this time because I am on 2 other committees right now, so
Okay.
I am stretched pretty thin. So, can I nominate somebody else?
you may.
I think Sharifa would be wonderful. I'd like to nominate her for vice chair.
And both Sharifa and
do
Lily,
you have any words of wisdom to share with the commission?
For myself, I'm not, I'm I'm not sure if I'm ready to do that. Yeah, since it hasn't been a full year. Can I deny it also?
You may, but keep in mind, this is more just an administrative thing to kind of facilitate meetings in the event that Joyce is not available. So the extra burden, I don't think is going to be a huge thing, but again, you're welcome to decline the nomination as well.
I think I'm going to decline it. Sorry.
All right. Any other nominations? We do need to fill this position tonight.
Can I nominate Ruby Clay?
You certainly may. Ruby?
Well, I mean, I guess under the circumstances, I'll accept the nomination.
All right. Thank you. All right. So we have Ruby Clay has been nominated for vice chair. Do we have a second?
Second,
I'm sorry. Who seconded? Joyce. Okay. Thank you. All right. And now we have a nomination and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Eclair, aye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Map I.
and Vora's aye.
All right. Wonderful. Congratulations to Joyce and Ruby. Thank you for serving an additional year. And Laura, thank you for your service, and we will miss you going forward.
Very much.
Yes, thank
Very
you,
much.
Laura, for your service. Absolutely.
And Lily, get ready for next year. You just haven't been here for that long a period of time. I certainly think everyone on this commission is well worth their position that they choose to serve in. Yeah.
All right.
And
thank you all.
Ruby,
Uh,
Kyle does have a nice meeting prior to the meeting.
Okay.
We can, talk through things and know what's coming up on the agenda and things like that. And it really is very helpful. And I know Sharifa and Lily have gone
Okay,
before too.
good deal.
Yeah.
Yep, I
It is nice.
appreciate that.
Yeah, it is nice. Okay, so we're set for the officer elections?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before continuing, I'd like to just note, please, that there were some continuation requests from this agenda until the next meeting on Wednesday, April 17th. Those include agenda item number 8, 166 Ashland Street, number 9, 511 Thatcher, number 10, 0 Toby Road, number 11, 137 Perkins Avenue, number 12, 155 Winthrop, number 15, which is 19 Otis Street, and number 13, 38 Lookoff Street has been withdrawn. Is that correct?
That is correct. And you've
Lily?
skipped over number 14 has always also been continued. 45
Oh, it was.
Asheville Boulevard. Yes.
Oh, I thought I had doubled. Okay, I didn't see that one on the list. Okay, thank you. Good. That shortens our meeting substantially. Okay, then our first new filing then is the notice of intent at 82 Ames Street. For the record, could you just verify the DEP number and the abutters list, please?
Yes, so DEP did issue a DEP file number for this, and also some technical comments. And then I can confirm that the abutters were notified.
What were the technical comments? Can you summarize those quickly? or-
I can pull them up in a moment. They weren't out at the time. Well, I'm not sure if they were. I think I included them in the agent report. They
Oh,
were
did
just
you?
about
Okay.
bordering land subject to flooding and what portions of the property were kind of within that jurisdictional area.
Okay,
We do have the applicant is here.
yes, yes.
Okay, you want me to go ahead and promote them?
Was River, yes, please.
Okay, great.
Oh, there's the DEP, yeah. Hi, Mr. Rego.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Sure.
Fine, thank you. Would you like to give us a summary of what your NOI entails?
Sure. So, this is a property, it's about a 1.32 acre parcel. It's located at the corner of Ames Street and Spark Streets. It's mostly undeveloped. It's got a stone channel which conveys the Seals Brook through the middle of it. Most of the property is vegetated with invasive species. It has been recently cleared and basically revegetated. That currently it just acts as a dumping ground for the local community for like hard disposable items like mattresses and hypodermic needles and things like that get thrown there. In terms of resource areas, there's the riverfront area associated with the Seals Brook, which runs kind of bisects the property from north to south. And there's a 25-foot riverfront area associated with that. And then there's a bank associated with that, and then the 100-foot buffer zone to the bank. And then the last resource area, there's bordering land subject to flooding. So it's a zone, so it's an undetermined elevation. So once we knew that that was the Seals Brook, and I did some deep investigation, I figured out that through the flood investigation study, there's basically elevation 96 in the local area was determined to be the flood elevation. So I used that elevation in LiDAR data to establish that the flood, I'm sorry, 96 is the right elevation. That 96 is the limit of the land subject to flooding. So that's shown on the plans. It kind of wraps around the brook and then on the front portions of along Ames Street.
Are you able to bring up the map?
Yes, I can. Yeah, if I'm allowed to share my screen. Okay, let's see. Let me share the screen. Okay, so this is okay, so here's Spark Street and Ames Street, and the site is this kind of irregular shaped lot, and then Seals Brook runs down the middle here through that stone line channel. There's a kind of a somewhat light gray line which runs along the perimeter of the property. And then so all of this area of the site and all of this area are within the zone A. And that, like I said, I determined the elevation to be elevation 96 to be that flood elevation. On the floodplain maps, it's shown over here, but I think they were confused too, because Seals Brook is basically culvert or beneath the ground for 1.5 miles upstream of it. It's all below grade, and you can't really tell where the path of the stream is, but it does enter out here. And yeah, so that's how I determined it. Anyways, what we're proposing to do is there is an existing unpermitted gravel parking area, like a reprocessed asphalt parking area over here on this section right at the intersection of Spark Street and Ames Street. So what we're proposing is to redo that section with permeable pavement to allow stormwater basically infiltrate through into the underlying soil. There's an existing catch basin on here, which leads to a basin in the street. When we opened up that basin, it's basically filled to the top with trash and debris. So that would be one of the things that we would do is clean that basin out as part of the project. But it's really must be years since it's been cleaned out or addressed. And then in the riverfront area, we're proposing to basically kind of grub out the existing invasive vegetation and then replant that area with some native species on both sides to the 25-foot limits. And then we're proposing to further develop the property, excuse me, with a 14,400 square foot building. We tried to keep that building so we weren't putting any more fill on the site. The overall goal, we were able to actually reduce the amount of fill that's located in the bordering land subject to flooding. And based on Mass DEP comments, we did submit calculations that show that we're doing that. So again, 14,400 square foot building, paved parking area around it, along the sides for access along the sides of the building for, fire department. And to get to the dumpster location, we're proposing again that the permeable pavement along the sides of the building. And up here, there'll be in the front portion, that'll be regular bituminous concrete asphalt. That will go to a single catch basin in the low point here, and then it'll be directed to an existing through a water quality treatment unit into an existing basin on the westerly portion of the site. All the roof runoff will be directed to a subsurface infiltration dry well in the front of the site. So all that clean roof water will be directed right to the front and infiltrated into the ground. So we've improved the infiltration of the site and managed the stormwater up to the 100-year in accordance with the Mass DEP stormwater management standards. And that's about it, I guess.
And what would be overlaying that infiltration basin?
That would be asphalt pavement.
Asphalt.
Over the top, yes. Yep.
And what's the condition of that retaining pond? Over to the left side.
It's in relatively good shape. It's just a grassed pond that it's kind of a little bit of a mystery of why it's there and when it was built. But it does exist there. There's an adjacent parcel here with a limited amount of pavement which drains to it. That's an abutting property owner, so it's not their basin, but a small amount of water from their site does go to it. But other than that, it's interesting. There's an overflow, and I'll go back to the existing conditions. But basically, there's an overflow structure in that basin, and it connects. There's an inlet over here on the side of that, in that granite wall of that. So it does overflow into the brook once it basically reaches the bottom elevation of that pond.
Agent Holden?
Sure, thanks, Joyce.
Thank you.
So thank you, Bob, for that summary. I don't really have much to add to the site description. So I guess in my agent report, I kind of review the technical comments from DEP. I know, Bob, you did respond to Whitney. That was not reflected in the agent report, though, because that kind of happened after I sent this out on Friday. But that said, my kind of recommendation still stands. I think that the commission should have Beta review this. There's stormwater standards that need to be met here. And there's cut and fill calculations and compensatory storage that all need to be kind of confirmed here. So that's kind of my recommendation. So that's really all I've got. Thanks.
Mr. Rigo, I think I remember when you and another gentleman came before the commission a while ago, right? In
Previously,
response.
yes.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it was going to be a building that was going to be built there. What would be the function, if you don't mind my asking?
He's probably on the line, Robert Tukamanian. He's probably maybe could be promoted to a panelist.
Sure, yeah, I'll look for that.
A
real quick.
better idea. I believe it's going to be, like contractor type base, like metal building with roll-up garage doors for storage / office use for, typical contractor type user. But he might be able to give you a better idea than me.
Yeah, I've promoted Robert.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, how are you,
How's it
Mr.
going?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, so the main function of the building, it's going to be four contractor units, contractor bays. They're going to be for, plumbers, electricians, storage. They're going to be rental units.
Mhm.
So they're going to be for small businesses, anyone who needs cold storage, warehousing, or to support their business, for example, like HVAC companies or maybe a plumbing supply company, something like that.
Do you expect much, like many trucks being parked on the
No, not
property?
trucks. We left side access for deliveries, but we're not anticipating 18-wheelers or any tri-axles or heavy duty things like that. So nothing outside of pickup trucks.
Commissioners, questions?
Will there be any protections to that pond? Is one question, and two, are there businesses operating out of these structures?
Out of the proposed structure, the proposed building. So yeah, once the building is built, it's going to be businesses that are operating out of the building. So it's going to be multiple businesses. And then as for the pond, any protection, I believe Bob Rigo proposed a retaining wall. So there's going to be a clear separation so that there's no trash, debris, or anything falling into the pond.
The businesses that will be going in there, will they be using any chemicals or things like that that would leach into the pond?
No, so we're not gonna have any haz waste producers or anything like that. And then it's gonna be a light industrial use businesses. So most of all, it's gonna be pretty much either warehousing or cold storage or kind of light industrial uses. Nothing with haz waste or anything like that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other commissioner questions?
I have none.
No, I'm okay. I'm good.
I
Laura?
just have one more question, sorry.
Okay. No.
Snow, storage, when, plowing during, the snowstorms and, what, is it sand that would be thrown down on the pavement areas?
It'd be a combination of ice melt and salt, and probably put less sand. And then snow storage, I believe Bob outlined on the left and right sides of the building where we have those access driveways where the dumpster is. In the wintertime, probably we'll be pushing the snow over there for snow accumulation and snow storage, keeping it away from the front lot and away from the detention pond.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any concern at all about using salt that might eventually get into the Searles River?
You can probably we probably change that, right, Robert, where there'd probably be a limited need anyways, but use sand as opposed to salt around the walking paths and stuff like that, and then.
Yeah, if need be, we can use whatever suitable material required. We could probably keep salt away from the riverfront area and the detention pond. We'll minimize the ends, the usage on the ends, and then we'll use it accordingly.
We can always put that in as a condition
Sure,
in the order of conditions.
sure.
Our main focus with this site is we just want to clean it up. It's been used as a dumping ground, and we just want to shape it up. We want to landscape it. We want to, bring some function to this site, make it usable, and get it out of the condition that it is now. And we don't want it to be an eyesore and a dumping ground. So we want to be able to utilize this and bring some life to this corner of Sparks Street.
It's fine. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address this particular piece of property? Do you see anyone, Kyle?
I don't see any hands coming up in the attendees.
Okay, thank you. Then I think we would entertain a motion to continue with a recommendation that be sent to Beta. Is that correct?
That is
what
correct.
you'd like, Kyle?
Yes, thank you.
I'll make a motion to continue to the April 17th meeting with the condition that Beta needs to review this. Is there anything else I need to add to that motion, Kyle?
Nope, I believe that's it. Thank you.
Motion seconded. I just have a quick question though. Are we also going to add the condition about the salt use?
After we see what Beta has to say and
Okay,
probably before we
All right.
issue the order. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please, to continue to the next meeting with the understanding that this will be reviewed by Beta.
Equal, aye.
Clay,
Curtis,
aye.
Green eye.
Matt, I.
And Voris, aye. That motion carries. We'll see you next month, I hope, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is an RDA, determination of applicability for 1 Feinberg Way. And this
Yes, and
is
we have a
actually,
representative that I'm promoting to panelist,
okay.
Jonathan Nero from Beta, who's working with the city, but I'll let him kind of introduce
That would
the
be great.
project.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the commission. John Nero, Senior Project Scientist with Beta Group, here tonight on behalf of the city to discuss some proposed improvements, 1 Feinberg Way, or the Campanelli Brockton Rock Stadium. If I could share my screen, I will walk through the existing conditions in the project and then open it up for any questions or comments. Can everyone see the PDF I have open here?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So this is just an aerial view of the stadium. Our project is focused within the southwestern quadrant of the stadium, primarily around the dugouts and grandstands, some of the area to the south of the stadium as well. What this project is, and I just want to sort of make this obvious or clear up front, is that this project essentially aims to provide an interim drainage improvement at the stadium. We're coming up on baseball season, and unfortunately what staff in the city have realized is sort of the antiquated drainage system that's out there today is not quite up to par and has resulted in some pretty significant flooding and ponding right along the grandstands and dugouts. There are some potential renovations in the works being designed for the future of the stadium. However, that project is not ready to take off quite yet. So the city at least wanted to do some interim improvements so that they could still have a viable season of baseball this year. So just to run through the existing conditions real quick before I get into the specifics of the project. The site is nearly all upland. However, you do have West Meadow Brook to the southwest, and you also have some associated fringe bordering vegetated wetlands along the north side of it. So to show you from the plan view here in color, this is to the west of the stadium, just to orientate you. You have the ball field up here. West Meadow Brook is at the bottom of the page. So we flagged bank and mean high water of West Meadow Brook. We also flagged, shown in blue, we also flagged an adjacent fringe wetland here shown in green. And then what I have shown here as well in solid black is the Zone A 100-year floodplain. The dashed indigo line is the 25-foot riverfront area. And then the purple dashed lines here is the 25-foot no disturb zone, and up here is the 100-foot buffer zone. So I do want to give just for the commission's knowledge, a general summary of the project, but I would note that only a portion of it is located in jurisdiction. So overall, what the project aims to do is, I think the best way to kind of think about this is sort of a glorified sump pump system, something like you would kind of find in the basement. So to avoid any huge excavations, given the fact that this is just an interim solution, what the city proposes to do is, you can see structures are going to be placed strategically around the grandstand and dugouts. You can see one up here. You can see one up here and along, all these circles along here. These are essentially, PVC drains that are going to capture excessive water that ponds in these areas. And, like I said, to avoid excavation, instead of running this underground like a normal drainage system, what the contractor would do is actually place all of these pipes to convey the water within the limits of the stadium, either hanging them from the grandstands or placing them on the ground. in order to make that work, there's going to be sump pumps placed throughout to actually move the water from the ponded areas through the piping, and now getting to the jurisdictional work into this sort of like a settling basin along the western side of the state, southwestern side of the stadium. This basin is essentially just going to serve as static storage for that drainage discharge coming from the basin or from the stadium at 2 points, one here and one here. And so the way we have it designed is there's about potential for about 3 feet of standing water to build in that basin until it hits overflow elevation. At that point, it'll be routed through an overflow to this emergency overflow structure, and then it will travel out. And at this point will be the only portion of this work that will be subsurface. The reason being is there is an existing sidewalk right here to cross. So in order to prevent us inhibiting pedestrian access, that pipe will be laid underground to get under the sidewalk. And then right about elevation 116.5, there'll be a flared end section placed here, surrounded by stone to prevent any erosion, and the water will be released out into the adjacent wetlands, or first to the adjacent kind of grassed area, into the wetland, and out to West Meadowbrook. During construction, pretty standard erosion controls will be installed around the perimeter of work. Contractor will be required to stabilize any exposed soils that are generated from this. And I would say, with the exception of a bit of clearing of Japanese knotweed just around this flared end section discharge point, there's really not much in the way of vegetative clearing as part of the project. So that really is the nuts and bolts of it. I'm more than happy to take any questions or comments the commission has.
So will that last piece be sloped from, what's the height of the piping at the very beginning there at the top of that, at the top of that unit? What is that?
Yeah, so the idea here is, so you have your bottom of your basin at 115 and your high water line at 118. So once it hits 3 feet of standing water, it will go into the structure.
Right.
The invert out of the structure is going to be set at little over 116. So it's set at 116.8 is what we have it here. That will then flow out to this emergency overflow here. That's at 116.5. So it is going to be a very relatively slow release with a lot of velocity, which for these purposes is suitable, and then it does provide the benefit of a lot less potential for erosion at the downstream end.
Commissioners, any questions at all?
I have a quick question. Are there any trees that are going to be affected by the outflow wherever this is running? Is there any vegetation or any kind of trees or anything that's going to be?
Yeah, so not really anything in the way of trees. Vegetation that's out here, it's quite developed, as you can imagine, out here. Essentially most of this area where this drain line is coming down after the sidewalk, to give you a better idea here. You can see there are some sparse trees lining here and on, basically on the sides, opposite sides of our work, but actually coming down through, it's grass. And then the only real vegetation you hit that we would have to do some clearing is there's a pretty dense stand of Japanese knotweed there. So we did provide a note, in the notice of intent that, the contractor would need to properly dispose of it, and prevent any slashings from being thrown downstream into the river.
I believe on at that corner there's a huge copse of knotweed, usually by midsummer, I would say. It's huge.
Yeah, it's some of the pictures I saw where it was pretty tall. I mean, actually just looking at Yeah, so as you can see, person for scale there, it's
Yeah.
pretty tall. The clearing will be kept outside of the wetland, but yes, there'll be some clearing of knotweed, but I don't anticipate any removal of trees.
Mhm.
Could you go back to that image you just showed? Because it looks kind of like from the colored one. It looks like there is a tree on the right hand of where
This one here?
yeah, is that a tree or no?
Yeah, so that is a tree there. It does appear to be outside of our limits of work. Going back to the plan here. So this is an older, I will say we did pull our existing conditions that this plan is based off of from some older city records. So I think at the time, that tree probably wasn't there when this was actually surveyed, but looking at the aerial imagery, it looks like we would miss that tree.
If I may, concerning the trees, I noted the trees when I was out there, Jonathan, and I think that you are correct that the limit of work for that drainage pipe will kind of go right through where I think there are 2 trees on either kind of
Yeah.
side of where that will be. And I think that this work can be done without damaging those trees, but I did put that in my comments in the agent report. If we were
Mhm.
to issue a -3 determination, the commission can also put some conditions on there. And one of the conditions would be that those trees are not permitted to be removed. And, obviously they would have to be protected with the installation of this drainage pipe.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
I had a question. What do you expect to be in the runoff? And to come into, some pumps? Is it just groundwater? I noticed it's astroturf, so, you don't have to treat the lawn. I'm assuming, I don't know. So I'm just wondering what kinds of environmental things do you expect in that water?
Not really much of anything, I think given the fact that the facility is really used and the drainage system will kind of be effective during the spring, summer, and fall months, I wouldn't expect any ice melt or anything like that to be in there. So it's my understanding is it's not even groundwater, it's really just essentially collections of rainwater that really has nowhere to go at this point. The drainage system is pretty antiquated out here, so it's probably getting towards the end of its usable life, and this will sort of act as like a release valve for that water. But I don't anticipate any kind of contaminants in there.
Thank you.
Sure.
And Kyle, the city engineer, is in agreement that this is a -3?
Well, he didn't make that determination. That's for the commission to decide upon. But and Jonathan can speak more to this in a moment. But yes, so one of the concerns that I raised in the agent report, because the majority of this work is, as Jonathan outlined, outside of the jurisdictional buffer zone for the Conservation Commission. But this is kind of similar to another project that we reviewed late last year, where there was a collection area that was outside of jurisdiction. But that flowed into a point source that did the end was outflowing into a jurisdictional area. And on that project, I consulted Mass DEP about how to handle that, and they recommended that we just ensure that all stormwater standards are kind of met with that larger project. So all the water that's flowing to that point source outlet is up to stormwater standards. So that was one of my recommendations in my agent report, that that be reviewed, the stormwater standards. And so we did have the city engineer review those standards, and he issued comments to Beta, and there's been some back and forth. And I'll let Jonathan kind of summarize all of that. But at this point, I believe all the concerns have been met. So yeah, I guess that's my summary. Jonathan, if you want to give it a little bit more detail, you're welcome.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kyle. So that hits the nail on the head. The only thing I would parse out specifically, some of the questions and comments is he had asked about the vertical datum that the plan was based on. And, you know, he had asked that it be tied into Brockton City base. So we're not positive what datum this plan was on. It was provided by the city based on a previous survey. But in any case, given the fact that we aren't really developing the site and all of the work is relative, the datum kind of becomes moot. What I would imagine the contractor would do is they would come out based on this plan and grab some benchmarks, things like rim elevations of manholes, invert elevations, etc. And they'd essentially set their own benchmark and you know, elevation datum, basically working off an assumed datum for the site. And then as long as all of the work is done, all of the proposed work shown is done relative to those elevations, that's ultimately what will make the project function, ensuring that there's positive drainage. A couple of other things that the city engineer brought up. One was requesting that gravel be added at the final discharge location, which we had no problem with. And then
Is that at the ECB, where it says ECB? Is that in that
yeah,
area?
so ECB will be erosion control barrier, and basically
good.
the trapezoid shape you see down here, the flared
Yep.
end section, that'll be surrounded both the sides and down gradient with stone, just a slow water. The other kind of big picture thing that the city engineer brought up was he had raised some questions about, you know, he noticed all these angle points and drain lines and asked for manhole structures or observation ports. And we, our engineers met him in the field and actually clarified, because this isn't a super common situation, that all those pipes would actually be laid on above ground. So there's no need for any kind of manhole structure or maintenance ports. And the fact that the work is really just an interim fix. The last question that the city engineer had was just about calculations of the actual pumping mechanisms, which we provided all of our calculations. I have not seen any specific comments or issues with those calculations, but I would say with, you know, regards to the commission's review and the commission's jurisdiction and, you know, the project protecting the interest of the adjacent resource areas, I wouldn't say that it certainly is relevant, but the pumping data is, in my opinion, less relevant to that than the actual construction of the basin and the overflow to make sure that water is released in a controlled manner. The calculations that were requested were more for the collection of stormwater throughout the stadium and how it gets to the basin. But yeah, we met city engineer in the field and went back and forth through a few emails, and there doesn't appear to be any big outstanding issues. So we were hoping to obtain a -3 tonight to be able to have the city move forward with the contracting.
And that's my understanding as well, that all concerns have been met as far as the stormwater issues that the city engineer brought up. And then I guess if you will allow me, we've been talking about the -3 determination. I'd like just to kind of read off what that is, so the commission is able to decide if this is something that they're comfortable with. -3 determination in an RDA states that the work described in the project is within buffer zone, but will not alter areas subject to protection under the act, basically. So the work is all within the buffer zone, and basically we're saying it's not going to have a negative impact on the BVW or the stream that runs right through there.
And we could condition that trees, mature trees would not be removed, correct?
Yeah, and that was, yes, exactly. Yep.
And can we get rid of all of that knotweed? Like at
If I
least
could
try.
get rid of all the knotweed in the world, I would, but it's a
No, just that corner, that corner. One last question, that retention pond area is, do you know, have you ever been to a Rocks game? Is that where they've set up all the little bouncy houses and everything that the kids go to?
I am not positive. I'm unfortunately not a local, so I have not
Okay.
been to a game.
Kyle, I don't know if you've been here long enough to go to a Rocks game.
No, I haven't. So I'm not sure what the use in that area has been historically.
Underneath the stadium to the right-hand side, closer to the high school. They do
Yeah,
have themes set up under there for the kids, like a bouncy house. and
Yeah,
some kind
yeah,
of
I didn't
ball.
know if that was where it was along that side or not, but that's okay. They just won't have to, they won't be able to do it in the middle of the drainage, in the retention pond, I'm sure. Will there be a fence around the retention pond? Do you know?
Yes, so there's, let's see, it's called out right here, a 6 foot high chain link
6
fence.
foot.
With
Yep.
kind of like a privacy screening, just so it's kind of not a
Mhm.
focal point. And there'll be a gate here in case staff needs to get in for maintenance.
Mhm, mhm. I guess if they have to give up a little of that play area, it certainly is better than having water on the field.
Yes, and the hope is that, this, that's just a temporary fix and that, a full design plan can be, developed and acted on in the future.
Do you have any idea how interim it will be? Like what the timeline would be?
That I'm not positive. I know they're, quite antsy to get this in so that, at least this season is safe.
Yeah.
But, no, I'm not positive on the timeline.
Okay. You've been very helpful and very thorough. Thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Questions from anyone else? Laura, Ruby? Lily?
Nope, I'm good.
All good.
Same.
Okay. And entertain a motion then, to issue a -3 determination with the stipulation that no mature trees be removed, and were there any other stipulations that you
Nope,
thought
it
that?
was just the trees.
Do we
Okay.
have to tell the public? Do we have to get questions from the
Oh,
public
yes,
on
I
this
think
one?
we do. Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Is there anyone from the public present to speak to this? Thank you very much, Ruby.
I don't see any hands raised, Madam Chair.
No hands? Okay, thank you. So I entertain that motion then? To issue a -3 determination with, as stated.
I'll make a motion to issue a -3 determination with the stipulation that no trees be removed.
Seconded.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Equal eye.
Clay, eye.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Matt, I.
And Vora's aye. That motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Nero.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay,
Thank you.
next item on the agenda is number 6, 0 East Ashland Street. And that would be Mr. J.K. Holmgren.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone from Holmgren is here tonight to speak to this, but I can give a brief overview of the project if not.
Okay. And would you want to do both together or?
No, let's keep them separate. I asked
Okay.
Scott to separate these to
Yep.
begin with, so we'll stick with that.
And the DEP file number and butters
Yeah,
notification?
let's go ahead and begin with number 6. So no, at this point, DEP has not issued a file number for either of these properties, but specifically for Lot A. But I did receive confirmation that abutters had been notified properly for
Okay,
Lot A.
thank you. And Mr. Holmgren Mr. Barry is not here.
I don't see anything, but I can pull up the application here. One moment. Okay. All right, so this is off of East Ashland Street. There is a gas station over to the right-hand side. I think it's a Sunco or something along those lines. East Ashland Street is down here. There is a this has been subdivided off of a much larger parcel that includes just a lot of wetland and not really buildable area. So I guess what the idea is to separate both of these lots, lots A and lot B, off of this much larger parcel in order to develop them. I think this is going to be okay. So we're just talking about lot 1 now. This is going to be a duplex, so like one structure, but two different living areas. So you can see the duplexes down here. This also includes a deck for both units, driveway for both units, associated utilities, site grading. What you see here, this dark black line that goes through the project area, that's the flood zone, FEMA flood zone AE. And I think this has a base flood elevation of 96 feet. So when you look at a base flood elevation or a flood zone AE, it's all defined by the elevation. So if you look at the existing conditions, that's the lighter gray marks here. You can see 92 here, 93 here, 94, 95. Basically, even though this bold line shows you where FEMA thinks that line is, based upon existing conditions on the site, basically the entire site is within that floodplain. So we have the BVW boundary flagged here with these triangles and this hash through here. This first red line is 25 foot. This next red line is a 50 foot, and this orange line is the 100 foot buffer zones. That's the large overview of this project. My recommendations are that we have Beta review this again, because the entire site is within floodplain, and there's going to need to be confirmation of the cut and fill calculations and compensatory storage included in this project to offset the volume that we're kind of adding to the floodplain with the addition of the home. You can see at the top of the page here, they do have the cut and fill calculations listed here. So it says here the cut area. So the area that they're going to be removing is 4,000, just over 4,000 cubic feet. And then the calculated area of the volume, basically of the home and the pavement that they're adding, the deck, all that totals up to the fill area, which is just over 3,500 cubic feet. So you have to have at least the amount of compensatory storage. It has to at least exceed the amount of fill that you're adding. But anyway, I would like Beta to review this project. But I do know, Madam Chair, that we do have someone that, from the public that is concerned about this project, and they did issue a letter, which is in the file for you all to read at your convenience. But I think they are here this evening to speak about this project as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And certainly after we've discussed it with the commissioners,
Yeah,
that would
of
be
course.
that would be fine. I believe I noticed too, when I was reading through the NOI, it said something about the first floor. Everything would be above the first floor. Is that correct?
We'll have to ask the
That was-
engineer
Yeah.
when they eventually come here. But yeah, I
Okay.
think basically because this whole thing is within flood zone, they
Floodplain.
are the floodplain. They are planning on having the first portion of this development to be floodable and not have really extensive damage to the rest of the property that's above that flood zone. So yeah, there was language in there about having all the electrical things within that first floor raised up above the flood zone. So that's but we don't have the complete plans for the
Okay.
dwelling. All we see here on the submitted plan is basically the footprint.
Mhm.
But that is certainly a question that we can ask the engineer when they speak of this project. One other thing that I would like just to bring to the commission's attention, this is also in the agent report. This just recently came to my attention, but the Brockton City Ordinance for zoning basically prohibits the building construction of really anything within flood zone. So they would have to get a variance for this development from the Zoning Board of Appeals. In the future, I will be making sure that they have at least applied for that variance at the time of filing, but I didn't know that. I didn't learn about this ordinance until after I had kind of already accepted this filing. So I've been in communication with the engineer. They are in the process of now applying for that variance from Zoning Board of Appeals. And I would just recommend we're not close to issuing an order of conditions yet.
Right.
But before we issue that order of conditions, we would want to make sure that that the ZBA has granted that variance.
Right. Okay, commissioners, any questions for Agent Holden?
I guess I've got a couple other things I can mention that are on this.
Sure,
plan
please do.
here. So we have the erosion control here and this is also the limit of work. This is all outside of the 25-foot buffer zone. You can see there is rooftop infiltration that's going to be put in underground here behind the house. And then the deck on one of these lots will actually be within the 50-foot buffer zone, but the rest of the structure and the deck on the other part of the duplex will be outside of the 50-foot buffer. And that's really all that I've got at this point.
How much further back does the property go into the buffer zone? That's considered part of ownership or being owned by, who's the property manager? I know that Messina is the one that's developing it because I go by it every day. But what is the plot size, I guess, and will there be any more development further back into the buffer zone?
So well, as far as development on this site, farther into the buffer zone, nothing's on this plan. So if they did want to do more development, they would have to come back with a new notice of intent. But I'm not sure if you're talking about just the small parcel lot A or the much larger parcel that this was subdivided from.
So this is all part of lot A, is it all subject to development or only this portion of it?
So this is just for this lot A portion, this notice of intent. This is one of the things that we've added language to the commission policies to kind of address this, so we don't have this kind of filing in the future. The problem is, if you see up here on the top left corner of the map, this is the locust map here. So you can see how much larger the parcel is. The actual development that we're looking at here with the homes really isn't much larger than that little circle on that map. So this is a very small portion of a much larger parcel that hasn't been completely subdivided yet. So right now, there is no unique identifier, no unique parcel ID associated with lot A versus lot B versus this much larger parcel. But what we're looking at now is just the proposed development for this small subset of this much larger lot called lot A that has the color coding buffer zones on this, and it's separate from the parcel immediately next to it, which they're also developing, and that's the next filing, which is lot B. So this filing is just for lot A, which is just the duplex here.
Commissioners, any other questions?
No, I don't have any questions since the engineer's not here. One thing I want to ask regarding the storage, but since they're not here to answer that.
Okay. If not, then I can open it up for any public comment.
I will stop sharing my screen, and I can always bring that up. But is there anyone from the public that wants to speak to this? I see a hand raised. I'm going to promote Debbie Kelly to speak.
Hi, Miss Kelly. I think you're muted.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, so I work for LRW Realty, which is at 220 East Ashland Street. So I'm here for Randy Pankowski, who is a trustee of the Realty, and so we are in a butter, and we're just concerned where it is such a flood zone, what the displacement of water would do to, his property there. He owns it's the building with Yano Inc. And Family Dollar, so very large parking lot and very large building. So just want to voice our concerns as in a butter. Where as Kyle had said, it's really all of the flood zone, and where is the water going to go? And that's all. Just want it recorded, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Kelly. Is there any other participant?
I don't believe so, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And again,
So
Ms. Kelly
Commissioners-
did issue a letter, so that is in the file if you all care to read that.
Mhm. I thought there was another one as well. Perhaps it was the other lot. I'm not sure if that was it. I don't remember it being Kelly though, but I can go back and check.
It may not have been signed, but it's the same kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
body that's making the complaint. It may not
Yes.
have been from her, but yeah, she's
Yes.
representing them.
Yes.
Yes.
That's fine. That's fine. So commissioners. I would say a referral to Beta for sure.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough information right now. I think definitely Beta needs to review this.
We'd like to hear from the applicant as well. Yeah,
Correct, yeah, we need to hear from them.
yeah. Okay,
So do we
I would like to
continue-
entertain a
vote- continue
motion
this
then.
one? Okay,
Yeah, I'd like to entertain a motion, please, for a continuance to the next meeting with a referral to Beta.
I'd like to make a motion to continue 0 East Ashland Street, Lot A to the April 17th meeting with a stipulation that Beta review the property.
seconded,
The motion has been made and seconded to continue with referral to Beta 40 East Ashland Street, Lot A. Roll call vote, please.
Equal eye.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Map I.
And Boris, aye. Okay, so that motion carries. Kyle, were you gonna say something? Thought I,
Oh, no, thank you.
Oh,
My
okay.
dinner was about to be delivered, so.
okay, sorry. Let's hurry up and get done. Okay, good. Thank you. So then the next item on the agenda is the notice of intent to add 0 East Ashland Street, Lot B.
Yeah,
Neighbor.
I will pull the
Right.
map up for that one and speak through that as well. It's a very similar development, if you can believe it.
Mhm.
DEP has not issued a file number for this notice of intent filing yet either. But I did confirm that abutters were notified for this lot as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my
Yes, sir.
screen. All right, so this may look familiar. They're basically doing the same thing on both of these sites. So the only difference is the brook, or I'm not sure what actual water body, but there is some sort of waterway that flows over here to the west of Lot B. But it's not. I don't believe that it's within. It's not mapped here. I don't think it's like super close. I think the lot has been partitioned far enough away that it's not showing up here. But that's something we can certainly look into. What resource areas you see mapped here are the BVW that's been flagged here. This first red line is the 25-foot buffer zone. This next red line is the 50-foot, and then this orange is the 100-foot buffer zone. And then this kind of dashed bold line here is the FEMA mapped flood zone. But again, if you look at the existing condition elevations that are on the map, that's the light gray back here. You'll see elevations of 95 here. So basically, like the previous application, basically the entirety of this site is below that flood zone AE value of 96 feet. So basically the whole entire site is within the flood zone. Similarly to the last application, there is an infiltration unit proposed here in the back to take the roof water runoff. This is also a duplex. One deck is within the 50-foot, the other deck is outside. The limit of work is outside of the 25-foot buffer zone. This is going to include associated grading, utilities. It's basically the same report that I issued for the previous property as well. So, but I did want them to split these into two different filings, and the reason is when this property is eventually sold, the order of conditions should be tied to a specific property rather than one order of conditions for multiple properties, because that order of conditions should be following that property through multiple ownership changes, basically indefinitely. And that just makes that a little bit easier down the road. Any questions for me on this property?
None, I think
Stockpile.
it follows along
Mhm.
with the same, with the A property, so I'd have the very same concerns with B.
Mhm.
And it's coincidentally the same recommendation that we have Beta review
Yeah.
this for
I would think
compliance
so.
with cut and fill and everything with the flood zone.
Any questions at all, Will or Laura? No? Okay, then I entertain a motion then to continue to the next meeting with referral to Beta.
Perhaps we should open the floor for public comment. I
I'm
don't know that
sorry,
we'll have any new
absolutely.
public comment, but just to be thorough.
No, absolutely. I'm sorry. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak to this?
Just me again.
Oh, okay, Deb.
Where it's the same exact project, please just record us as well and put the letter on the file as well on this property too. Same exact concerns for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Kyle.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I entertain a motion then to continue to the next meeting with referral to Beta.
I'll make a motion to continue this to the April 17th meeting with the stipulation that Bader review 0 East Ashland Street, Block B.
Seconded.
Okay, that motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Declare.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so then we have continuances and continuances and continuances, which take us all the way over to enforcement orders, I believe.
Yes, that is correct.
And the first would be 1507 Main Street.
Yes. So I can kind of give a summary here,
Yes,
but
please.
I believe also we have someone here to speak to this project. So this is one that we sent on an enforcement order. This is at the Brewster Ambulance facility on Main Street, where they there was some pavement extension that was added that kind of encroached upon a wetland resource area. We issued an enforcement order. I don't have the exact date, but it was in the summer of last year. And the or not the applicant, but the property owner initially was responsive, and they showed up to the initial meeting with the commission, and they decided, and they expressed interest in resolving the issue. But then, like, I hadn't heard anything from them for months, so I reached out, sent a letter, must have been a month ago before the February meeting. And asking them to attend and kind of give us an update on where things stood. No one responded or attended that meeting in February, so I sent up another letter before this meeting, and we did establish contact with the property owner again. And I know someone's here to speak to this, but broad strokes, they did have someone go out, a wetland scientist go out on site and evaluate the existing conditions and the current conditions. So I'm sorry, they evaluated the current conditions of the damage that was done, and then also did an evaluation on what was the site like before they did the extension of the pavement. So we just received that report last week, but it is in the file now. The next step is to work with the property owner to develop a restoration plan based upon that information that the commission could then review and approve to get the area restored. So we have someone here from Brewster Ambulance. I'm not sure if you want to speak, but this is that project.
Okay. Mr. Grandel? Is that correct?
Yeah, he doesn't have his hand raised, but I will go ahead and promote to panelists. Okay, there we go.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello,
Good evening.
how are you, Mr. Condell?
Not bad yourself.
Fine.
All right, so this unfortunately was a surprise situation we were put into here. It began with a tow company that is next to our property. My understanding is he had asked somebody if he could park a few of his larger tow trucks on our property. We said no problem. And then, to our surprise, there was a monstrous area of land cleared. A fence was put up. Millings were put down, or like gravel. And then shortly after that, we got the nice notice to go ahead and remove that, stop all of that, which immediately we did. We basically, he had parked a significant amount of vehicles. Obviously, the lot there, if anyone's seen it, we have more than enough space to do what we need to do with it. But it just, like I said, it was a surprise to us, and we're actively trying to just resolve it with everyone, get it back to the way it was. I had contacted, and I apologize, too many cooks in the kitchen type of situation. You think some people are doing something, some people, and it sounds like the ball may have got dropped, so I apologize for that. But I had contacted PES Associates early September to come out and kind of evaluate what was there, what we needed to do, and present a strategy to get it back to where everyone's going to be happy and compliant. He did. We submitted that, Kyle. Did you get that?
Yeah, I did receive that report. Yes, thank you.
Because there was two options. Basically, option 1 or 2 would be able to basically keep what's there, develop a stormwater management system. We don't need the extra parking area there. Like I said, we use about 10% of it for us. So we would like to basically get it back to the way it was and resolve any compliance issues we have. And one downside is obviously they can't do much with frozen ground. So I think we're in the best stage here to come into the springtime and be able to basically get the plan approved and get it back to the way it needs to be.
So this is not going to be an NOI, correct? Is this just going to be a restoration plan that will be submitted?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, but we don't actually have a restoration plan yet. What I see here is more of a report. Is that correct?
Right. That is correct. So yeah, and in that report, as Rich had mentioned, PES kind of recommended one of two things: either
Right.
try to bring the asphalt addition kind of up into compliance with stormwater standards and whatever else they would need to do to come in to make it work with the Wetlands Protection Act, or remove that area and develop some sort of restoration. And so it sounds like, Rich, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're opting for option 2, going with a restoration plan. So at this point, I can work with you all about developing that plan, but basically you can use PES or another consultant to develop that plan for you, and then after that plan is put together, you will submit it to the commission, and we will kind of give our input and then okay that plan to begin that restoration work.
Okay. And I want to just mention too that they've not allowed to park anything back there. There was a fence that was put up, that's removed. It's just basically, like I said, waiting for the weather to kind of allow us to move forward with the contractor to put it back to where it needs to be. And it would be the first time I've ever had to deal with the restoration plan. So is it something you would would you need a scientist to develop, or would PES's plan? I'm sure they have a network of contractors that probably.
Yeah, I would reach out to them first, and if they can't do it, they might be able to direct you to whom may be able to develop that plan for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Thank
Rich.
you.
Thanks. Yeah, must have been difficult for you.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
Is he
Commissioners-
needs to report back to us next next meeting, April 17th, with a plan in place or evidence that there's been progress being made.
Yep. Yeah, I did. Like I said, I wasn't aware of how the process works. So now I'm going to kind of take charge with it. So no one's left hanging with no Brewster representatives on the meetings. Like I said, it's a lot of times you think someone's involved and you're not. So yeah, I can definitely get everything in motion here now that I have the direction to just work a little further with PES, and we'll get a plan together. And then should I email to you first, Kyle, or?
Yeah, whenever you get that together, email to me. I can distribute that to the commission. But yes, Commissioner Curtis, I do think that's a great idea. Let's just plan on this being on the agenda next month and have at least, if not a restoration plan, because it may take some time to develop that. At least, you know, some sort of proof that we're making forward, you know, movement on this issue.
All right.
And Rich, I think you'll find Agent Holden really helpful too. He's great.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I need to make a motion?
I don't
No
think so.
motion
No,
necessary.
not for an enforcement order. No. Nope. It's informational, correct? The next enforcement order was 57 River Street. Was this
Yeah,
volleyball?
this was a mistake on my end. We decided at the February meeting to give them 2 months to
Right.
get a restoration plan in place.
Right.
I added them to this agenda. I did send out that letter to them, giving them 2 months. And you know, so the April meeting, but I kind of
Okay.
forgot, and I put them on here on this agenda. So this isn't something we really need to discuss further tonight.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. The next one would be 28 Howard Square.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone is here to speak to Howard Square, but I can give you kind of a summary. I've been working with the property manager. I don't know that they own the property, but kind of the primary resident there. I will just kind of move forward with this, but if
Yes, please.
there's a John K in the attendance. So if John, if you're here to speak to the Howard Square enforcement order, please raise your hand and we'll promote you so you can chat with us. So this is the property that had a lot of debris and trash that was within the riverfront area and actually within the brook behind 28 Howard Square. And this trash kind of went over into the adjacent parcel at 24 Howard Square. So we issued an enforcement order against both properties. I've been out there multiple times since then, and they're willing to work with the commission to bring the site into compliance. The last time that I was out there, I've got some photos I'll show you here in a moment, but I guess maybe 2.5 weeks ago, I went out there, met the property manager, the primary resident that lives there, and I kind of did just a very rough measurement from the bank of the stream that's there, 25 feet for the riverfront area. I flagged that and I said, just remove everything that's within this area to begin with, right? So they've done that for the most part. There is some concern about children being on the property and getting too close to the river. So they have left kind of a barrier of logs, like right on the bank. Ideally, that shouldn't be there. But the last I was speaking with the homeowner, or not the homeowner, the person that lives there, they intend to, or they would like to like build an actual fence there, like a permitted fence. So I think at this point they've removed a majority of the trash, and they are interested in constructing an actual fence, not the kind of this rudimentary kind of just barrier that's there with all these logs. So I think that we should be working with them moving forward for them to file a notice of intent. And this is different from the last enforcement order where we're not filing a notice of intent, because having a fence along the property boundary or outside of the riverfront area is something that is potentially permittable by the commission, whereas, you know, filling part of a wetland is not something that would ever be permitted basically by the commission. So that's why we're not going the notice of intent route with the last enforcement order. But this enforcement order, since they are wanting to establish a fence line there to kind of separate the area that the children have access to from the waterway, we can move forward with a notice of intent if that's something that the commission is interested in. So I'm going to pull up some photos now just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I was out there last week on March 15th. I'm going to share my screen. Are you able to see the photos now?
Mhm.
Okay. So previously, there were giant slabs of, corrugated lumber and pipes that were draping over this this kind of bank. This is not the bank. These are those logs that eventually will need to be removed. But there was stuff that was like literally in the water. It was hanging over this bank into the water. So they've removed all of that material. And this photo here is basically showing that that material had been removed from the bank and removed from the water itself.
It's from the property side, correct?
This is from the property side. Yeah, I'm standing on the property
Yeah.
here. And this is another shot of where this is just where all that material had been before. So they've removed all of that from the actual bank, which is great. Taking a step back here, this kind of open area here had just an absolute ton of like lumber and things stacked on it. They've removed that material. Obviously, there's still a little bit of trash here. We can work with them on getting that kind of cleared up. They had a garden here at one point. So this is a pile of just kind of garden organic stuff, parts of the corn stalks and things that they've kind of just pushed over here. So that will eventually probably need to be pulled out as well. But this is the adjacent property. This is 24 Howard Square. So they basically removed the material that was problematic there. But we can finish getting this polished up. But they've done a lot to kind of bring this up into compliance, or at least come into compliance with what we asked them to do in the enforcement order. So here's the flags that I kind of went out there. They moved everything, most everything to the upstream side. So like the bank is over here by where this shoulder is. But you can see they have a few things here by the fence, this kind of tarp thing. But these things will eventually need to be removed. But I think the idea is that they have this chain link fence here. And there's a chain link fence on the opposite property bound behind where I'm standing. And I think the idea would be maybe to put a chain link fence across this area. I have communicated with them that they're not allowed to like farm back here. They can't have a garden within the riverfront area. All the pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers that they add can easily obviously get into that waterway. So we want them to not be using that area for a garden. So as part of the notice of intent filing, if they go with a notice of intent filing, we can require that they restore this area back here, put some native plantings down, stabilize this area. So here's like where the lumber is kind of stacked up, and this is supposedly a barrier to keep the children out. And I recognize that we don't want anyone drowning back here. So one way or another, this needs to be removed, right? So if they go with a notice of intent filing, I think we can maybe allow them to keep this in place until that filing is kind of worked through. Otherwise, this will have to be removed. And another alternative could be just to move this pile closer to the home, so it's outside of that 25-foot riverfront area. So that's really up to them. I was hoping they'd be here tonight to kind of have this discussion with the commission, but I will follow up with them. They are willing to work with us, but that's kind of how things stand at the moment.
It does look much better.
It does. There are some bricks and things here.
kind
This
of.
is within the riverfront area. This stuff needs to be kind of cleaned up and moved. But for the most part, I mean, they're making steps in the positive direction. So I will follow up with them after the meeting this evening and kind of see what they want to be doing in the future.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any questions?
Kyle, that's the same for 24, correct? 24 Howard, that would be the same.
Yes, this area here, I don't have the side by side. I don't have the access to the other photos right on hand, but there used to be a giant pile of lumber here, and this on the other side of this fence post, is that 24 Howard Square. So we cited the adjacent
Okay.
property, but basically it was material from 28 Howard Square that was over the property line on 24 Howard Square. So
Over,
yeah, over the property line on 24. So that's more or less
they've
been
gotten rid of that part. They've gotten rid of what was on 24.
yeah, that's correct. With the exception of just these few little bits of trash and things, yeah.
Mhm. Good. Nice. Someday we will have a riverfront in Brockton.
Yeah, that's right. One property at a time. Before we move on, Madam Chair, I did have a couple utility notices that came in.
Yeah, I saw that.
So this isn't on the agenda, but I did add it to the commission's meeting file. So number 20, I've got two different notices, one from National Grid and one from Keolis Commuter Services.
Keolis,
They manage the commuter rail line up through Brockton. So both of these are basically doing vegetative management. So they're either cutting back or are pruning trees, vegetation that might interfere with either A, the power lines, or B, the rail lines. So these are public utilities. These are exempt from the Wetlands Protection Act, assuming they meet certain best practice standards. So at this point, this is more of just a notice to the commission. You can dig into these files, read the letters. I've copied them on here. There are maps with the rail line. So you're just aware, but at this point, the commission doesn't need to take any action. But this is just more of an FYI.
Do you know if it's at all possible to get a copy of the National Grid right-of-way maps? Because it seemed like that was going to be quite an ongoing period of time. That
Yeah,
they would
I'll
be doing
do
that
some digging.
right-of-way work.
Yeah,
and
and I've received some. We get these a lot, and the
Yeah.
letter that we just received doesn't have any maps associated with it. It's just say, hey,
No.
you know, over the next year we may be doing some things.
Yeah,
But we
yeah.
have other letters that I can do some digging into some older things, because I think on those it does have maps and it shows you what actual areas in the city that they're planning on doing work.
Yeah,
So
that would be
I would
appreciated,
do
because
that.
I think if some people live kind of close to sensitive areas, I have
Yeah.
gotten calls myself before saying, okay, what's this group here doing? And it just would be nice to know exactly where they're gonna be working.
Sure. Yeah, I can do some digging over the next week here and let you know.
And then the commuter rail thing too, that was an interesting map where I had some, what was it? Some pesticides used, and I don't know, I don't remember now some
Yeah, I've got it
no
pulled up
spray,
here.
some spray, limited spray.
Yeah, depending on where and what resource areas are around that portion of the rail line, they have different management strategies, and that's part of those best management strategies that they're
Okay.
kind of required to implement. So like
Okay.
they have on this map, and this is in the file. I can share it too if you guys just want to see. I'll pull this up real quick. So they will be doing there are two maps here, but so up here you can see along this rail, there's like the light blue, the yellow, and like the dark navy, along with the different resource areas that are mapped. But those color coding is the light blue is limited spray zone, the dark blue limited spray zone with a 2-year kind of increments. The light blue is 1 year, so every year they would do that. And then the yellow is like a no spray zone. So that's like right by the resource area rather than in like the buffer areas.
Mhm.
And so like the same thing down here. This is another map on the south side of Brockton. We have so you can see right where the stream crosses the rail line, it's a no spray zone. But on either side of it,
The
they have
limited,
the
yeah.
limited spray zone.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of what they're
Okay.
doing.
Kyle, who monitors their spraying and whether they're following those regulations?
Yeah, that's all internally, reported, and that's up to these utilities are the ones that are kind of internally monitoring themselves. But they do this kind of work all over the state, and they are only exempt when they follow these regulations, these best management practices. So if they were found to not be doing that in Brockton or anywhere else, that would be a big problems for that utility. So for the most part, it's in their interest to follow those best management practices. There's no one that's like from the commission that's kind of keeping an eye on this. But if someone, like as Joyce had kind of mentioned, if someone calls, says, hey, you know, I see some problematic things here, we could always certainly check in on that. And we would just
So
go.
DEP doesn't, periodically check to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to?
I mean, not to my knowledge on a small scale like this. I'm sure there is oversight on like a higher level, that, you know, they have all the documentation in place and things like that. But I don't think there's anyone necessarily on site, that's making sure that, you know, they're in the limited spray zone for 2 years versus the limited spray zone for 1 year. I think that's all kind of internally handled.
So it's basically the honor system, is what you're saying.
The honor system for the public utility, yes. But again, you know, if there are concerns, you know, I can go out, you know, you as commissioners can always visit these areas too and see if anything, you know, is you know, a red flag. And if you have questions, you can call me. Or, you know, I mean, like if the public calls and they're concerned, we can certainly dig deeper. But
And what are they spraying for? Mosquitoes?
oh no, this is all vegetative
vegetation?
management stuff. So it's yeah, it's different plant. So for example, the power lines went into a little bit more detail. They don't try to kill all plants underneath the power lines, just like tall vegetation that may interfere with the power line. So they actually promote certain species that don't grow very tall, rather than like these tall trees that might eventually be problematic. So they have there are a whole set of standards that they kind of operate by and to maintain these right of ways.
You
And
know,
that's
if
that's
any of
true of
those
the commuter
sprays
rail too.
affect like the bees and birds or butterflies or things like that.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning part of that question.
I said, do any of these sprays affect the bees, insects, things like that, or is it just geared for vegetation?
Most of the time, and I don't know specifically, but you know, when you spray for, you know, like a pesticide is kind of targeted. So the same pesticide that you are applying, like an herbicide, I'm using pesticide in a very broad sense here, but when you treat something like the active ingredient in herbicide is targeted at specific molecular mechanisms, sometimes for specific even types of plants. They can be very, very, very specific. So if you're applying an herbicide, that shouldn't have a negative impact on like directly on like an insect population. Like now, if you're killing something that the insect population is using to pollinate or something, there can be indirect consequences. But for the most part, the pesticides are kind of targeted. And so the herbicides are kind of targeted at specific, if not specific species, it's targeted at plants broadly.
It seemed like there was a website that you could go to, at least to check the commuter rail.
Yeah, they didn't. I looked at that today. They didn't have a ton on there. They had these
No?
maps that I pulled up, but yeah,
Oh,
there
I
wasn't.
I
a
didn't
lot
have
of
a chance to
information
see.
there.
Yeah. I know that with some utility things, they give you like three or four pages of best management practices that they'll be following. And I thought it was odd that these two didn't really have that.
Yeah, and if you want, I can request that. I can do a little bit more digging to see what those are. But yeah, I can certainly look into that.
If you could just so we'll have it, that would be great. So we
Yeah,
can have it in
okay, I
file.
can do that. I'll do that for
Okay.
both of them. Yep.
Okay, that's great. Thank
That
you.
would be great if something targets
Kyle,
Japanese knotweed too, right?
Kyle, try the DPU oversight on mass.gov.
Would you say that one more time, Ruby, please?
DPU oversight. And they're on mass.gov.
All right, yeah, I'll look into that. Thank you.
There was only one other question that I had when I was going through the file. I'm not even sure. Somewhere I came up with something from the Fuller Museum. When I was
Yeah, I
reviewing
sent you
stuff.
just a letter to updating the commission
update.
on
Yeah.
the status of the work that we permitted with the.
That's
I'm not
right.
sure if we did a notice of intent. I think we eventually went through a notice of intent. They had an emergency
Yes.
order that was passed last
where they had
it's over a
flooding
year
and then they
ago.
put in a new berm and they just sent it the picture of the berm and it looks beautiful and
Yeah.
all of that. But the one thing that I thought was interesting in that letter was the mention that they thought that they saw bubbling along Oak Street and they thought that that might be indicative of a burst pipe. And that they had actually sent sent a request to the city requesting that somebody could get there to evaluate that because that's exacerbating their flooding. They think it could. So I was wondering if as a commission, we could in fact do the same thing, like ask the DPW to check on that. Would that be outside of our purview? Because if that's affecting their flooding, that's also affecting that resource area, shouldn't that be an area that should be addressed by DPW?
You know, I'm not sure if that's like quote unquote within jurisdiction or not. I mean, it's very close. There's a wetland just on the other side of Oak Street there. But on that, I do have an update. So DP's been out there multiple times and they were pretty certain that there wasn't a main break. But just
DEP?
recently, I'm sorry, not DEP,
Okay,
DPW.
DPW, okay,
Yeah, Brockton Department of
Yeah,
Public
yeah.
Works had been out there and checked for this lease.
okay,
But after receiving that letter, I followed up with Rob, who reached out to the commissioner of the DPW,
Okay.
and they kind of followed up with it. They tested the water that was kind of coming up from there, and they did detect chlorine in it. So it is very, very likely a main break. So that is kind of where things stand now. So the next step is to kind of address that leak and then see how that affects the Fuller Craft Museum as it pertains to that flooding that they've been experiencing.
mhm. And not only the issue of flooding, but the fact that water's being wasted from Silver Lake, it's,
Well, sure,
it's
yes.
shipped a long way to get there, yeah.
Right.
But, so you think that they will be hopefully taking some action, I hope.
Yeah. I've not heard anything for a week or so, but last I heard that they're kind of operating under the assumption that it is a main leak now.
Okay, if you can keep us, keep us appraised of what's going
Yeah,
on
sure.
with that, would be great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Of course.
Good.
I do have a quick question. If it's okay.
Yes, of course, Ruby.
Okay, so we did the vote for the elections, but now how does that fall into our 3-year, 3-term commissions that we were sworn in? So like I got sworn in back on December 16th of 2021. My 3-year would be up ending November of 24. With me now being elected, how does that affect that whole 3-year term commission from being sworn in by the city?
Yeah, so like it's never going to mesh perfectly, and that's kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to go for a year term for officers rather than a longer
Okay.
term. Because
Okay.
I know that we have these 3-year terms that individual members are serving. But basically, serve and if you were wanting to end at the end of your 3-year appointed term and that didn't line up perfectly, we can just so it says, and this is language that I've included in the policies. A vacancy occurring in any of the positions recited above shall be filled at the next regular meeting of the board by majority vote of members present. So basically, if hypothetically, if Ruby, you were only able to serve half of this term as vice chair, and you were then no longer a part of the commission for whatever reason, we would just basically have the kind of emergency elections to fill that position until the next like March, where we would have
Gotcha. Okay. I just want to understand that process. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe that's it.
Yeah, that's all.
Laura, sad to see you go, but it was a pleasure working with you. Good luck with everything, in the future for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll
Yes,
see
thank
all
you,
guys
Laura.
around, so.
Stay in touch if you, wherever you move on or
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
you're doing
I'm thinking
within the
for
city.
Yeah, I'm here, don't worry.
Good.
And when we meet, so you're welcome to just attend these meetings just as a community member too, just to stay informed.
Just for fun. I'm sure you'll
Yeah,
do that for fun.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.
Roll call vote.
Beekler, aye.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Green eye.
Matt, I.
And for us, aye. Take care. Thank you.
right,
Laura,
thank
can
you,
you hang on
everyone.
for
Have
one
a good
minute?
evening.
Black
Laura, can you hang on for
bye.
1 minute? Are we not?
Yeah.
Are we
What's
still
that?
recording? Are we still
Oh,
recording?
let me see if I can turn the recording off.